record now. Great times. Okay. Um, as far as upcoming events and deadlines, hours logs are due next week. Next week we will have a skill meeting, barring any other kind of crazy weather. That will be happening same time, same place. The topic will be creativity in session. So I'm excited about this one. Um, and then next week, we also have International Center webinars. The topic of that one is if you can dream it, you can meme it. We had the International SI conference like this summer in Baltimore. And this was actually one of the uh, breakout sessions at the conference, and it was a really, really fun one. So I'm excited to see how they're going to adjust it to be talking like directly to students. And I think it was really interesting to learn more about that. So if you're looking for a professional development hour, that's a really great one. Um, just as a FYI or as a reminder, we do have the Global SI Leader Summit. So if any of you are interested in presenting at that, again, proposals are due in December, at the beginning of December. So if that is something that you're interested in, go ahead and start working on that because I know that's like right at the end of finals and ain't nobody got time for that during finals. So go ahead and start thinking about it now. Start working on it now. And then this is a little shout out. Most of you may not know Saif. Um, he was a past mentor, and now he really is trying to get more involved in theater. So he has moved over into a social media and marketing assistant for us. So he's still on the team, but he has a part in the true story of the Three Little Pigs. This is a Gainesville Theater Alliance production. Um, and we're so excited. So we just wanted to shout that out, and it is available. So the Gainesville Theater Alliance, for those of you who don't know, it's a partnership between um, the between UNG, our theater program, which is primarily housed in Gainesville, and Grinnell University's theater program. And it's critically renowned. They are amazing shows. Um, I still say my top three shows that I love theater. I go a lot, but my top three shows have been GTA performances, and I've seen productions like all over the world. GTA does a fantastic job, and it's something that even if you don't go to the Three Little Pigs, just that for y'all to be aware of, the GTA performances top notch. They're only $5 for students and staff, so it's a really cheap option to go and see some just really amazing productions. So if you're interested in that and you want to go and support Scythe, um, that will be running for the next 2 weeks. So um there's okay. I'm trying to so from tomorrow until the next Saturday. So that's not 2 weeks. That's basically a week. I can't count. But yeah, so really excited about that one. I know y'all will probably see some messages like they're trying to get a team together, like an SI team to go to see the show. So look out for that. Gabby?
I just had a question about observations. If
Mhm.
we observed a session that ended up being a no-show, do we need to make that up?
So we really do we would like for you to at least try, like, yes, The answer is yes. Um, the caveat to that is like we don't necessarily want y'all just going to no show after no show. So if you do go and observe a no show, my suggestion would be to reach out to Oscar and see which sessions he feels like are pretty much like a guarantee and he can help you find one.
Mhm.
That makes
Okay.
sense. Because yes, we do technically if you do see one no show, like we want you to go and try and see another one so that you actually get the benefit from it.
Okay. Sounds good.
Um, all right, so we're running low on time, but I don't want to skip this. Um, as I said, sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to do this. Okay, stop share. Okay. Excuse me. As I said, the withdrawal deadline was moved up or was pushed back a week. So, students next week is not like the official week of, students are in this class for better or for worse, but we are getting close to that. And so, what I want y'all to do is you'll need to make another kind of pitch to your students um, to just number one, remind them that you're in there. And I recognize that some of you, your students know that you are in there because you have a very different role. But um, reminding them, but for others of you, yeah, reminding the students that you're there. If you have multiple sections, going to both of the sections and and making the same pitch, just reminding them again, students, that you are there. This is for after the withdrawal deadline. After the withdrawal deadline, again, the students that are sitting in the room with you, they are there for better or for worse. Um, Whatever grade they make is going to impact their GPA regardless, right? So even if they withdraw a week after the withdrawal deadline, that's still a WF, and that counts the exact same as an F. So, right? So, like, at that point, students, better or worse, they're there. um, the third point with that is that we're still not like so far um or so close to the end of the semester that they can't impact their grade for better, again, for better or for worse. They could be sitting pretty right now. And one test tanks it for them. Like there's still an opportunity for them to um their grade is not set in stone. Let's just say it that way. So remind them that SI is a really great opportunity to just come and just spend more time with the material. It's dedicated study time. I forget what point I'm on, but another point with that is that y'all know the semesters do not get, as the semester goes on, things don't typically get easier for students. Like you get more tests coming up, more projects being due, papers, this, that, and the other. Like things start piling up toward the end of the semester. So they may have been fine up until now, but you never know. That one English paper can really bring them down, and then they can't study for math anymore, and because they've been focusing so much on the paper or the project, and then their math grade goes down as a result, right? So just kind of reminding them that like SI is your dedicated study time, like regardless of how you're feeling, like just like when things get hard, like you can come to SI, and that way you at least know that this class is taken care of. You're good. You've studied for it. You can focus more of your attention on your other subjects type thing. So That being said, I do want to give y'all an opportunity to just kind of talk to each other about um I'm going to put you in breakout rooms, but just kind of talk to each other about your specific sections and how you feel like what you feel like you would want to include, maybe practice a little bit. And just so that you're not in a couple of weeks when you do have to stand up in front of the class, um, you know a little bit about what you're going to say. So,
Huh?
uh, what
For what? Why are we saying up in front of class? To
after
do?
like another, just like another kind of introduction speech, a reminder speech about SI and what it is, what you're there to do, and talking to them specifically about what it means to be after the withdrawal deadline. Like Skylar, I know for you, um, for a lot of you actually, you're working with freshmen coming straight from high school. They may not really understand even what that means. Um, and so we just want you guys to remind them kind of what y'all are like, who you are and what you're there to do and how you can help them. So
My students are like in the class that I SI for, so like it's like together.
yep, I'm gonna put you with Benjamin because he's doing the same thing.
Okay, bet.
Yeah. So y'all can kind of like, you guys have a very unique situation. So I want y'all to kind of be unique together. Okay. And then recreate, hold on. Okay. All right. So I am going to okay. So I'm going to give y'all about 5 minutes to do this, and then we will come back and be good. So again, you're just talking through what you would want to I might give you guys 4 minutes, just depending, but what you would want to talk about, what you think will be important to talk about, thinking about your situation and the students that are sitting in front of you and what they need to hear. And then if you have time, maybe practice a little bit. Okay. So I'm going to open the rooms again. Benjamin and Skylar, y'all think about your specific situations where this is concerned because you are different. So I'm going to open those rooms, give a few minutes. That timer for 4 minutes. Benjamin, are you good? There he goes. How do you usually like communicate on the online environment? I'm just curious. You're muted.
Ha ha. No, I usually like I have a group me that like not all of them have joined, so I like use that and I'll be like, hello. But I'll post on D2L because most professors don't care. They're like, yeah, you can use D2L, do whatever. And I'm like, great, thank you. But I had one once who was like, no, don't do that. Email me and then I'll email them for you. And I was like, what? What? Yeah. So I was like, that doesn't help me, but okay.
No.
So I'm gonna have to make what I think I need to do is I need to like get a picture or something so that it looks different from his post because he's not gonna post a picture of himself. So I need to find like a picture or like something funny and like post it and be like, guys, I'm your SI. We should totally go to session. Please, please
Well,
go to
again, yeah, for you, like with an online statistics session, you
Mhm.
know, like they're gonna need that.
Yeah, I'm just like, how are y'all not failing? Like,
Are they?
what? I would
I
be
mean, do
like,
you
I don't
know?
know. I don't know. I don't think they are. I mean, I think they're doing fine. It's not hard stuff currently. It's still a lot of like vocab and like, here's the formula, plug it in.
Yeah.
So currently, like, they're doing okay, I
Yeah.
think. But we'll see. I'm gonna ask Rugme, be like, Rugme, can you give him extra credit? Could you please give him extra credit?
Here's the
See,
thing. I mean, I've gotten to a point where I'm like, I always want it to be inclusive. Like,
mhm.
I always want, if a professor is going to give extra credit, I want them to give extra credit for them being able to attend multiple things. So, like,
Yeah.
get you into a tutoring session or come to an office hour, whatever. Um, Even better, I'm going to give them a worksheet as extra credit that they can work on in session, like
Yes. Oh my gosh, yeah.
types of things. As opposed to like, yeah, go to session. Well,
Yeah.
Susanna, some of your students like legitimately, it's not that they don't want to, it's that they truly can't with their schedule.
Yeah.
We can't accommodate everyone. And so I think, but so being inclusive in that way is
Yeah.
most important.
Mhm.
But going to session and going to tutoring and all of that stuff and being engaged in it, like
Yeah.
that's work.
Yeah.
That's work for them. It's,
Mhm.
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, because
People
it's
have
difficult,
different.
especially like because the online students, like it's either that they're in person and they just wanted an online class, or they're busy and they have they need an online class, or they work and so they need an online class that like can work with their work. And so it's always like hard to like figure out like who can come and who actually wants to be here and who like doesn't really care, So because I
Yeah.
had one student who was like, if you could do them before 1 o'clock, I could be there. And I said, what? So I rescheduled my Monday session. She wasn't there on Monday, but I'm holding out hope. So I'm gonna DM her and be like, I changed my session times.
Yeah,
Do you want to come back? But we'll see.
definitely do that. Like reach
Yeah.
out to her specifically because
Yeah.
you never know, you really do. You never know.
Yeah.
I mean, if anyone does know, it is you, I think.
Yeah.
Sup, Paxton? I got a real night, you're muted, but I got a real nice message from Dr. Perez Udelfer earlier.
Really?
Yes, I did.
What was it? Was it good? All good stuff?
It was all really great stuff. She literally said, I'm starting this message. I'm just sending you this message because I just need to brag on Paxton.
Yeah, I had a lot of people. I had a lot of people in my sessions this week. So and also every week. So I guess that was probably why.
Yeah, well, apparently her students did really, really well on something like on a lab
Probably the lab
exam.
exam. Yeah.
And she was like, I just know. I know it's because of Paxton.
Yeah, we had a review where I had them do some like just statistical a stats test review and it's just some basic metric conversions, but that was like something that they had a lot of trouble with and they seem to do better on it.
I like I said, I just that was such a cool email to get. So just wanted to share that with you. All
Thank you.
right. So, um, hopefully those were good conversations. We are going to move on just because we don't have a lot of time, but our topic this week is equality and diversity in leadership. This is one of the trends that the Forbes article and many other articles have defined as a necessary skill for leadership in our current world, right? So, that being said, I do want to somewhat preface this with just this understanding that leadership, there's a lot that goes into this topic, and there's a lot of opinions, there's a lot of ideas. Unfortunately, like, well, again, that's my opinion, but there's a lot of controversy surrounding like the idea of like DEI and all of that. We're not going to get into all of that, like, not the time or the place for it. If you're interested, I would love to have conversations about it. But that's not what we're going to try. That's not what I want us to necessarily focus on today. What I really want y'all to think about when we're talking through this specific topic is the idea of leadership as relationship, period. Leadership is relationship. And when you're thinking about relationships, you're just thinking about the person that's sitting in front of you and like looking at that person that's in front of you and seeing them as a whole human being with a story and who is deserving of respect and care and compassion, all of that, right? If we can think of it in that way, that's again, there's a lot of levels to this, especially in the leadership role, but that's the baseline. Leadership as relationship, and relationship as just seeing the person across from you, regardless of who they are, as a whole human, right? So that being said, again, I do know, I'm aware that there are thoughts and opinions already. We're going to talk through a couple of terms, but I do want to start with just a small, short brain dump. I know that there's a lot of questions here. I don't want y'all to necessarily think through all of these. But I think it's important when we're talking about honestly, anything, but specifically a topic like this, to kind of bring to mind, like, what do I actually think about this right now, so that that's in the forefront of your mind. Because if you can, I have found in my own experience and in other studies and experiences just in general, that if you understand what you're thinking of and what you already think about something, it opens your mind to take in new information a little bit better, right? So what I want us to do is just for about 2 minutes, I just want y'all to kind of think through, what are your initial thoughts when we say the word equality and diversity? And when you throw in inclusion in there, how do you define those terms, especially thinking about it in a professional and academic environment? You can think about like your experience in SI or other experiences that you've had. You can think through the line of work that you're going into, whether it's like medical, education, research, whatever that might be. I don't, think of it however you want, but how do you define those terms? What challenges do you see with working with populations, with different populations than like identities that you have? What are the benefits to working in diverse environments? What are some of the challenges? Um, Things like that. So I'm going to give you guys a minute to kind of think through those. You will not share any of that. You're not going to share. So you can truly be honest with yourself. But a minute to think. We'll move on. All right, take a couple more seconds. Okay. So again, we just wanted to do that just so that you can be aware of like how you already think of these terms before we start our next conversations. So the first thing, we're going to do a case study like later. But before we do that, I just wanted to define a couple of terms with y'all. Come on. Okay. So the first term when you're talking about diversity, equality, inclusion, is this idea of implicit bias. And this is a definition from the National Institute of Health. Implicit bias is the subconscious feelings, attitudes, prejudices, and stereotypes that an individual has developed due to prior influences and imprints throughout their lives. I think the main thing to note here is that every person in the world, just it's a human nature, you have implicit biases. Period. Because we all have different experiences. And those experiences are the things that build up these implicit biases. Like our environment contributes to it. Our perspectives, our education, our family of origin, like all of these things contribute to how we see the world. Right. And those are essentially what we are looking at as implicit biases. And when I talk about this also, it is a subconscious thing. This definition is. There are explicit biases, but I'm not getting into that. Implicit bias is typically subconscious. It is not something like malicious. It's just the way that we see the world. But a lot of times what we have to do and what we're called to do is bring those things to the forefront so that we understand what our implicit biases are, so that we can confront them, right? So, and this specifically comes out in groups that are considered other, right? From us. Okay, so we have our own identities, again, our own experiences. And then when we look at someone else, if they do not share those same things, like that's where implicit bias can come into. It is mostly talked about when you're talking about marginalized groups. So that could be anything from this list here. So whether we're talking about race, gender, socioeconomic status, rurality, so like where someone is from. There've been a lot of stuff in the news lately, I feel like, about Appalachia because of the hurricane, and that's part of this. Your physical appearance, age, sexuality, religion, ability, mental and cognitive health, all of these things are identities that people have, right? And so even if it's subconscious, we have a way of seeing those things, okay? So it's important that we understand what those biases are so that, again, we can confront them and potentially, hopefully over time, change them. Which leads to the next term, which is microaggressions. These are a comment or action that subtly and often unconsciously or unintentionally, so again, not necessarily malicious, expresses a prejudiced attitude toward a member of a marginalized group. So when we're talking through equality and diversity and inclusion, we have these microaggressions that will come up that make it really hard and difficult for people to feel included in specific areas. And so, especially as a leader, and we're thinking about a relationship, once again, relationship, leadership as relationship, relationship is just seeing the person across from you as someone deserving of respect. If I'm looking at if I'm looking at Susanna, I don't want to do these things because I care about I care about Susanna. I'm saying Susanna because she's the person that I see right now. But I don't want to do these things to Susanna. So it's important for me to understand again what those biases may be and like how those things may come up in interactions with others. Okay. So that being said, we're going to take the rest of the time that we have to go through a case study. So Oscar, Tracy, and I spent about 30 minutes trying to write our own case study, and we were way overthinking it and banging our heads against walls, and we didn't have time. So Oscar was like, Chat GPT. So that's what we did. So this scenario is a product of Chat GPT, and we're very thankful for it. So the case study for today is Carlos. Meet Carlos. Carlos is a 20-year-old student. He attends a public university, so you can even think of him as one of our students, okay? We're considered mid-sized, but think of him as one of ours. He's a first-gen student from a low-income household. We know that his family immigrated from a rural area and that they struggled financially, having to work multiple jobs. And Carlos, you'll find out Carlos also has to share that weight, that financial burden. He was born with a physical disability that affects his mobility. Okay. So he does use wheelchairs and canes. He is a highly motivated student and wants to become a lawyer to help others from disadvantaged backgrounds. And he earned scholarships to attend college. So he's put in a lot of work to be here and still works part-time. And then despite his achievement, he faces challenges, both visible and invisible to most of his peers. So the scenarios that we actually have are social interactions. We'll go through this one first, and if we can get to the next one, we will. But the social interaction, he has made a couple of friends, but he just feels isolated. His classmates make assumptions about him because of his disability and assume that he needs help when he doesn't, or they speak to him as if his physical condition affects his intellectual abilities, right? And then also students just kind of feel uncomfortable around him as if they don't really know how to act because they can see this physical disability. And it causes him to feel like an outsider, even though he's doing really well academically. So what's going on here? Like what are the implicit biases that are happening? What are maybe the microaggressions? Give me an idea. Like if you're thinking from the student perspective, what's happening here in this scenario? Okay. So Gabby said in the chat that assuming he needs help is a microaggression. Yeah. Oh gosh, Skylar, I didn't see your chat before. That's horrible. That's hard. And that's like,
Yeah, I was so mad at him too. I wanted to go off on him.
yeah,
I was like, that is so racist. But
yeah,
it's like a majority white town, obviously. But
you know,
yeah.
yeah. All right. What else? What else is going on here?
Go. Um, I mean, they're like obviously like just assuming like not very much of him. Like assuming like that he just like can't understand what they're saying because of a physical condition. Um, that would be like I don't know, would that be a microaggression or would that just be like completely like crazy rude? Like,
So I'll share a story somewhat similar to this. Um, I have a family friend, a very good family friend, who does have a cognitive disability. She's in her, I think she just turned 30 this year, but her brain, like her brain is not developed past the age of 8. Okay. And she's such she's a beautiful human. I love her to death. And when I was first getting to know her, one of my other good friends, like a mutual friend of ours, she's a special ed teacher. She's known Janessa for, years and years and has developed a really great relationship with her. Janessa is the one with, special needs. And when I was first getting to know Janessa, I was like talking to her, like talking I was talking to her like I would talk to like an 8-year-old, right? Because that's just kind of where she is. But Sam pulled me to the side. Sam is our other friend, pulled me to the side and was like, "Hey, just so you know, like what you're doing is, I know you don't mean it this way, but it's actually really rude and condescending because like Janessa's just a person. She's more than she's more than her disability. Just talk to her like you would another person. You don't have to talk to her like she's a baby. Um, you know, and that was really arresting for me, okay? Because like again, I felt like I had already done a lot of work on myself in this specific area. My master's degree had a lot of classes in these types of areas and stuff. So I'd already felt like when that was brought to my attention, I was like, "Oh my gosh, like yes, you are absolutely right." Feel horrible about it to this day, but I'm so glad that Sam said something to me. So a lot of times we just don't know, but like again, that's a microaggression for her, right? And so yes, that would be a microaggression for Carlos. Just assuming that they need help. Yeah. Gabby said making assumptions about his intellectual ability based off physical presentation is the implicit bias. So the thought that if you're disabled, if you have a disability of any kind, that it's like an umbrella term and that you need help in all areas. Absolutely. All right. So that being said, and I do recognize we're kind of at time, but I'm just curious because, again, this could be one of y'all's students next semester. Maybe you've even had a student like this already, but like think about this from your perspective, like as the leader in the group. how do you respond to Carlos and to the other students that are in the class, right? Like what's your response? Hold the same high expectations for Carlos as I do everyone else. Yep. Okay. Treat him the same. Yeah. So Gabby, you have a student that's in a similar situation. Yeah. And another part is like even being able to encourage other students in this as well, right? You build relationships with other students. So, really kind of stepping in as even an advocate. But then you also have to be really careful with that because that also assumes that they can't stand up for themselves, right? So like it's a tricky thing to navigate, but it is important for us to be able to think through um mhm, a student in internship who's in a wheelchair and has an IEP but is also gifted. Yep, absolutely. Um so I think the big thing here is that especially as leaders, like just remember it's okay to ask somebody, how do you want to be included? Like how do you want to be included? How do you want to be addressed? Um how do you prefer to interact with the group? Things like that. I know that Gainesville also mentioned even if they come to session and you have like a bunch of different things planned, number one, doing what you can to adapt, but then also again asking them, how would you want to adapt this? It's not a bad thing to ask people. I think I'm talking specifically in a situation like this, but I think most people would rather you ask than make assumptions. So that's the big thing that we really want y'all to kind of take away from this is just thinking, yeah, it's important to consider that some students may need a different approach and asking them if that's something they need is important. That's a good point, Gabby. Absolutely. Great. All right. Well, I hope that that was helpful. That was our next time we're going to be talking about emotional intelligence, which kind of ties into this a little bit. But I do think, again, it's good for us to have these conversations and to kind of think through how, um, Skylar, you're funny. It's good for us to think through these kinds of scenarios and just really remember that no matter what, like we do have these implicit biases. And no matter how much work we've done on ourselves, our first reactions may not be the best ones. And so being able to just kind of take a step back and really think through what you're doing, and then also be able, if you do something wrong, being able to apologize for that. And again, just treating the person, I'll say it again because it's so important, but leadership is relationship. And at the end of the day, relationship is just about who's in front of you and treating them with kindness and respect. And I think if we can do that, um, that makes an impact. That's what people remember. Um, so thank y'all so much. for participating and for stop share. Okay. Thank you all so much for participating today. And please let us know if you have any questions. I love this topic. So if you want to talk more about it, I'm so here for it. But other than that, go forth and treat people with kindness and respect and build relationships and do great things, make good choices, and have great weekends. Bye, everyone.